Planning permission is sought for the variation of conditions 4, 5, 6, 9 and 10 of application SE 11-1443 to enable an amended proposal for the sustainable urban drainage system and associated changes to the landscaping scheme. So this is the layout of the site with the housing that's already been approved, and originally we were to have some ponds in this location, and they were part of the sustainable urban drainage system. However, these have now been omitted as during the detailed design process undertaken for the drainage it has become apparent that the ponds would not receive enough water to make them an attractive feature. Therefore, the landscaping has been redesigned with the central landscaped feature, which looks like this. So it's a planted labyrinth with a central tree. And the drainage system has been amended and comments have been received from the Environment Agency who are satisfied the revised details are acceptable, and also I've now received confirmation from Anglian Water that they are happy with the slight increase to the discharge rate. The other amendments are some adjustments to the woodland area at the rear of the site, where it has been agreed that the existing footpath, which you can see on the photographs, will be retained along the rear boundary instead of as originally planned, which were to be replaced with narrower winding paths which would have intersected the woodland. An adjustment has also been made to the boundary with Croft House, which is at the bottom of the plan here. So the boundary has been adjusted slightly, whereas a small strip of land has been sold to the owner of that property to enable them to maintain their windows, which were originally on the boundary of the site. And you may recall when we originally considered the application, we did actually go and do a site inspection here, and I think it was noted on site the position of those windows. In conclusion, the amendments are all considered acceptable and the recommendation is one of approval as per the papers. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. As you might have noticed, we've got a slight problem with the computer control rights. Good day with a bit of exercise on that. Right, we have two public speakers on this one. We have Graham Barbara Oakley. If you care to go over to the table, please. Thank you. And we have Colin Poole, who's come to Haverhill Town Council. Want to go forward to the... Okay, Mr. Oakley, you've got 3 minutes. Are you ready?
Right.
Press the button on the microphone.
That was green, yeah?
Yep.
Existing boundary that put up there has been moved from its original position, leaving a gap which is quite unsightly and non-maintainable by anybody in it. 26 inches of land is no good. We want the boundary moved back to where it was, where the original chain link fence was put. Adjacent to our land is bought from Bloor Homes, which is a forcible sale to ourselves, so we can maintain our property and do our windows. We've planted 4 trees 7 foot away from our windows. We cannot see out the windows when it's blossoming or the trees are growing. Bloor Homes a year ago said they was going to remove these trees. They have not done so. They don't appear to be doing so either. They're not on the original plans, they're not on the existing plans, they're not on any plans. Why are they planted there? There's a difference in soil levels between the fence that they have erected for us of some 8 inches. We're 8 inches lower than the other side of the fence. We're the correct height. They have piled up the mud, whatever you want to call it, 8 inches higher on the other side, which is going to rot out the fence in no time at all. They're not going to be prepared to move it anyway. The construction of the roadway, which is on the plan up there behind our property, has got a bit of drainage in it. When it rains though, all the water misses the drainage, it comes down on our property. We have a 6-inch flood up the top end of our property. My garage, which sits at the bottom end of my property, goes under several inches of water when it rains. You haven't mentioned the water problem we're having. I I see in your paperwork you gave me this morning that Bloor Homes have been negotiating with us. Well, I don't know when they've been negotiating with us because they haven't spoke to us. Finally, any permission granted at the end of the day has got to mean who is going to maintain this fence erected to the rear of me. Because previously it was owned by Rovers Football Ground, and now they seem to think I'm going to maintain it. Why has it become my boundary instead of somebody else's? There's a lot I wanted to say, but I'm a very good public speaker, I've got to say that. But I don't know. The water is a major problem for our house. I've had my freezer go underwater, I've had all the electric blown, and since Bloor Homes put this roadway in with no drainage at the bottom, couldn't they put a gully in at the bottom so it stops all the water coming down on my property? But it's a long way from satisfactory. I have had people around reluctantly to look at my property. It was reluctant, and all I keep getting is a civil matter. How can it be a civil matter when you grant planning permission for somebody to alter everything at my site? That's it, I think.
Thank you, yes. Okay, and you are Croft House?
Croft
Yes.
House, okay.
Okay, Mr. Paul, 3 minutes.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Councillors, what I want to focus on really is when you grant planning permission, quite often you do so against the wishes of your local town or parish council. You often then get a lot of flack for doing so. One of the ways that the parish councils or town councils and neighbours' concerns about planning can be assuaged is by planning conditions. And you put in planning conditions so that both sides, with some form of compromise, can go ahead. Whether it be Bloor Homes with this development or Tesco's with their supermarket, you put in conditions. Now, everyone's entitled to ask those planning conditions to be varied. If things change, then that's fair enough. But from what we've just heard, things haven't changed. The idea that flooding didn't turn out to be as bad as expected is clearly not the case. Nothing has changed in respect to that condition, so why should you vary it? We cannot see, as a town council, there is any justification for these variations. They only got permission from you for this development because these conditions put in place. They were fine with that, they went off and they built their properties. Is it going to be the case that developers know that they can say yes, 3 bags full, sir, to the conditions you insist on, knowing they can come back in a couple of years' time and have those conditions looked up? I think, I would ask the town council, for the neighbours of these properties, for the people who live next to Tesco's, whatever the development might be, where conditions are being asked to be varied and nothing has changed to justify it, that you say, no, we let you build this because of these conditions, nothing's changed, the conditions stay. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. Hundreds of members popping up. Councillor Byrne.
Thank you, Chair. These premises are in my ward. I fully support the presentation by Colin Paul, and I have the deepest sympathy for Mr. and Mrs. Oakley. I hope this committee takes into consideration the distress and concern that these changes are going to cause to Mr. and Mrs. Oakley. We knew initially when Bloor Homes were making their applications to us that flooding and drainage, and if you go back in the minutes you will see that we raised these concerns. Flooding hasn't been such a major problem, but I think we should take seriously into consideration how this is affecting the residents, and I would hope that colleagues would oppose this for them. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm not sure where we are with stock systems these days, because it was, the government said, going to be the county council from the Environment Agency. Now I think There's a move back to giving us the authority for such schemes. It would help if the goalposts stood still for long enough so somebody could adjust to where they're supposed to be. Councillor Marks.
Thank you, Chairman. The fact is that since Bloor Homes have been messing around on this site and erecting new properties, it's caused considerable inconvenience to those who are there already. And I think that those people who are there already have every right to redress from Bloor Homes to construct this property to get it put right. And they should not be allowed to change those conditions just to suit their own ends. Thank you.
Thank you. So are you proposing something like we bring this back again after we've given Bloor Homes yet another chance to put things in order at this stage?
Yes,
You're proposing that?
I'll propose.
Seconded by Councillor Whittaker. Thank you. Councillor Wade. Councillor Wade.
Thank you, Chairman. I may be being a bit slow. I did read this bit of the paper before Christmas, but I mean, 3 of these conditions, Condition 4, Condition 6 and Condition 10, all require the applicant to submit plans to the local planning officer for approval. So, what's wrong with that? You know, why hasn't this been done? Why do we need to change that? I just don't get that bit of it.
What I would say is that if this application isn't approved, what would happen is that Bloors would have to construct those ponds in this location at the top here. They have already put in other measures to compensate for the loss of those ponds, so they're already in place. And what would happen is those, which is the main central area of the open space, the advice we've had is that those ponds wouldn't form an attractive feature. They would be completely dry, and they're also quite steeply sided. So it wasn't as was originally envisaged, which was that they would hold water during most of the time, there would be a pond, they would attract wildlife, and they would form an attractive part of the open space. Which is why Bloors have come back to us to say, you know, we don't feel that that's going to be a good solution. What we would rather do is have a good comprehensive landscaping scheme, which is why they're putting in, if I can get it to go to the next slide, the slide that I showed before, which was the labyrinth planting with a specimen tree that would actually be a feature of the open space, which is, as I say, because most of it's taken up by the woodland at the back, we'll also have this pond at the front. It was felt that this would then become an attractive area for those residents living on the site, and it has been part of ongoing negotiations that we've had with our landscape officer to actually improve the open space on this site, so we feel that it's an improvement. The reason it has to come forward as a variation of the condition is that when we approved the application, we specified precise plan numbers, and obviously with those changes, it doesn't relate to those plan numbers. So we have to go through this process, which is to vary the conditions, to ask for these amendments, which will then mean that those conditions can be enforced, and we can ensure compliance and control of that landscaping. As it does say in the report, a lot of the issues raised by Mr Oakley, which are with regard to where a fence has been put, I've been out on site, as has Stephen Wood, to have a look, and it is a civil matter because it's to do with the land that he's purchased and the boundary that is part of that purchase agreement. But I have spoken to Bloors, and they have advised me that they are going to relocate the fence, take out the chain link fence, to ensure that there isn't a gap between Mr Oakley's fence and then the chain link and then the space. So we have been working with Bloors. As I say, it's not that the drainage has been changed or they're omitting something, it's that they've actually put in underground holding tanks now, which allows us to re-look at this open space.
Question from that, I suppose, comes is, are we satisfied with the work on sites will actually protect the property outside the ground? Which it appears so properly.
I have to rely on the advice from the Environment Agency and Anglia Water. Anglia Water have to adopt part of the system. They have already agreed that system and are happy with it. I have had confirmation that they are happy with the discharge rate, and the Environment Agency have also, and they've had a lot of documentation that's gone to them and they've assessed it in detail, and they have asked for more information which Bloors have provided. So I am satisfied on the basis of that advice from those experts that the system works and will not increase flooding elsewhere. I think there has been problems during the construction where perhaps not all of the drainage had been in, but obviously as the site now comes to be finalised, that I've been assured by the experts that the system should work, and that's the information that I have to base my recommendation on.
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Marks.
Thank you, let me come back, Chairman. Well, clearly it's not working. This guy's got flooding in his garage, his freezer's full of water, and it's not working. So what is going to be done about it? It's grossly unfair for an existing occupant, property adjoining the building site, to have these dereliction of this property as a result of those building works. And I think it requires further investigation. Maybe it's not by changing the conditions that are there, but something has to be done about this.
Thank you, Councillor Marks. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I have very sympathy with the gentleman who said that he's having some flooding in his property, because we had a similar occurrence here in Bury where, for some inexplicable reason, the highways didn't notice that one of the new small estates up on Newmarket Road didn't have a drainage system. And as a consequence, the water comes off of Newmarket Road and gathers because of the tarmac and floods a garage within that development. So there is some precedent set where developers perhaps sometimes don't always realise quite the problems of flash flooding on water. So I did a site visit, so I know where the property is, but I haven't been back to see the development as it is currently. And if the water is coming off that road and running onto and over the curb into that property, a cottage, then there needs to be drainage put there to stop that from happening. I don't know how difficult that would be retrospectively because the road's already in situ, but it would be very unfair on the residents to allow that to continue on the basis of possibly a fairly simple remedial action by putting a drain in and running it into a runoff area. But it seems very unfair that nothing is done. There is obviously a problem, so perhaps Bloors could be persuaded to look to address that issue in itself. Because once they move off site, you'll not get them back again. We know that when it comes to roads that have been unadopted. Once they're gone, they're gone.
Thank you, Councillor Bloom. Sorry, Everett. Councillor Ray.
Thank you, Chair. I mean, I don't have particular difficulty with doing away with the pond, because clearly on site, following the plans, they've discovered a problem with the hydrology, that, if they put a pond there, it isn't going to retain any water. So it's going to be an empty pond all the time. So I don't have any difficulty with them coming back and saying, let's change that scheme. Nor do I have any difficulty with the footpath that goes across the top of the site, retain the existing one, rather than a windy one through the woods. I don't have a difficulty with that. What I do have a difficulty with is the problems that we've heard about today, and are they linked in any way to what we're considering today? And I don't even know the answer to that. It's clearly, there is a problem. Bloor Homes have got to address that, to keep local residents on site. But what I'm not sure is whether that's linked to what we're being asked to do today. Which on the face of it, changing that pond and that suds arrangement and changing the footpath, that seems reasonable. But what I don't understand is the link between the problems that we've heard about.
Okay. Councillor Baker.
Chairman, we've heard reference to the experts this morning. Well, the experts, I'm guessing, at the planning application stage decided that these would create ponds that look a lunatic, or clearly the experts were wrong then. We've heard from Mr. Oakley that the dialogue between him and Bloors didn't take place. We've heard from Haverhill Town Council, we've heard from local members. There's something wrong with this, and I don't know what it is. I don't think any of us really know what the problem is, but there's something not right, and I don't think we should go ahead until that is right.
Right. Not a lot further input. We have a motion on the table to defer this until we can get some answers back on some of the queries that have been raised.
Chairman, it would be very useful if we could be specific about the concerns that members have so that we can investigate those further. I'm wondering if it's mainly to do with the drainage issue. It is an issue that, if you look at the representations, doesn't seem to have been raised in the representations received. We could go back to the Environment Agency and Anglian Water and check whether they've been aware of the issues that have been on site, and ask for further comments as a result of that. I would reiterate, though, that the other points in relation to the boundary really are civil matters that the planning authority would not be able to judge those issues.
But we could make the suggestion that they ensure those matters are out of the way before it comes back to us again. Councillor Everett.
Thank you, and thank you for the explanation. The only point I make is that I can understand about civil matters and boundaries. I understand that it's not a planning issue, but certainly the flooding from the road, it would be, because if the roads don't have the adequate drainage, then that is a design fault, and that should be addressed now rather than once they're their site. So I would still commend that we look at that via highways. The boundaries would say it's a civil matter and then have to address that as best we can, although we could put some pressure on them, I think, as a planning authority. If there has been changes on the behest of the developers because of the problem of that fence, then they should be duty bound to make sure they don't plant trees right outside his windows.
Okay, thank you. We have it proposed and seconded to be deferred. I think that was Councillor Marks and Councillor Whittaker. All those in favour of deferring it to get the bits sorted out, particularly the subs issues.
It's carried unanimously,